So I just finished the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, and it's made up of these 3 books right here. And I wanted to tell you why you should read this trilogy because I had the best time reading it myself. I'm gonna try my very best not to give any spoilers away, so you are safe in this video. And I must put a disclaimer out there. I've only read this original trilogy. There are 3 standalone books after it, and there's a sequel trilogy after it, and I haven't read those yet, but I just wanted to talk about this original trilogy because it was so much fun. So I hadn't read Grimdark before, and this trilogy would be classified as Grimdark. I didn't even really know what that meant. I picked these books up because it was recommended by some of my subscribers when I finished the last series I was reading. And the word I already used for this was fun, and I think that's the very best word to describe it. These books, I was looking forward to reading them every time I picked it up. It never felt like a chore. It never felt like something I had to do to get further in the book. I just knew when I picked it up, I was really going to enjoy what was coming. And that isn't the same for every single book. So if you're looking for something fun, this would be a great place to start. And I'll tell you why. So first reason is it will keep you guessing. And when you pick up a book and your goal is that it keeps you guessing, normally that would be like a thriller book. And most thrillers that I've read, or action books, I suppose, would be, there's only one thing that ever keeps you guessing, and it's someone got double-crossed, oh, they got double-crossed again, and it turns out the person we trusted couldn't be trusted at all. And I don't think that keeps me guessing, because you expect it. This keeps you guessing in a completely different way. So what Joe Abercrombie does is he breaks his own rules all the time. He'll do things like build up a relationship or a friendship and then shatter it for absolutely no reason that's obvious to me, the reader, which is kind of awesome because that will actually keep you guessing. He also does things like give one character their just desserts, they will receive justice, and another one will not even receive a modicum of justice throughout the entirety of the story. And it's not based on the character of the person we're talking about or the character of the character we're talking about. It just seems to be at the whims of the author, which means it truly does keep you guessing, unlike certain thriller books and thriller authors will just throw in someone double crossing you every 50 to 100 pages, and that's meant to count as keeping you guessing. Another thing with keeping me guessing is it never really does anything just to advance the plot. It never felt like any of these strange occurrences were forced, and therefore they were really enjoyable. I suppose the biggest thing, the best way to describe this is Joe Abercrombie wasn't scared to throw away his own hard work just to make the story more enjoyable and to keep you guessing. And I've never written anything before, but to be able to do that, to put in the hard work just to know that you're going to throw it away, I mean, it must take a certain kind of writer, and it's not really something that I've read too often before. So bravo to Joe Abercrombie there. How else does it keep me guessing? Well, plot, question mark, not really. There's not the typical world building that comes with fantasy or, sci-fi or anything in that direction. There's also not any deep explanations of the different types of people and types of nation. Yes, there's a baseline explanation. I know the difference between someone who is Gurkish, for example, and someone who is from the north, but we don't go massively into their history or the depths of those people. And normally I would say that would detract from a story, but in this one, it really doesn't. So normally if someone said to me, hey, we're going to read a book, it's going to have fantastical elements to it like magic and different types of creatures, etc., but there's not really going to be a concrete plot that we're going to be following, I'd have been like, that's strange, I probably wouldn't read that. But having read this, the zoomed in perspective we get from our main characters, like everything is extremely character focused, really was enjoyable in a way that I didn't think it was going to be. So instead of me following a really large plot and an overarching epic fantasy, what I got to do was just follow some people as they were living their lives in this world. And I think that's what made it so enjoyable, because it felt like I was a person in this world rather than watching this huge story unfold. And that's just a different perspective to some of the books that I've read more recently. However, is there a plot? Of course there is a plot. It's not overly complicated, but it is interesting. It does have a lot of twists and turns in it, and it's just well executed as well. And if we're talking about the end, the best word I can think of to describe the end is probably ballsy, because it is satisfying in the most unsatisfactory way you can possibly imagine, for me anyway. And I also just Googled some synonyms of the word ballsy to try and get a more PG solution, and I got audacious, brazen, and bold. And I don't think any of them describe it as accurately, funny word to mispronounce, as ballsy. So I'm going to stick with ballsy. The ending is ballsy from Joe Abercrombie. The second reason is the characters. Oh my, the characters. They are absolutely fantastic. They're hugely flawed. We see massive progressions and huge regressions from pretty much every single character at some point. We see some gain it all, some lose it all, some never have it, and some wholly undeserving characters hold the world in the palm of their hand, and there doesn't really seem to be any pattern to any of it, just adding to the fun. There's one character that I have to give a shout out to, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but Glokta is one of the most enjoyable characters and interesting characters that I've ever read in all of literature. And having said that, he's interesting, cunning, smart, intelligent, ruthless, crippled, and a host of other things. And although I absolutely loved him, I also was disgusted by him in every single chapter that we had from his perspective. And if that doesn't speak volumes for this book and Abercrombie's skill set, then I don't know what does. And you will find characters in this book that will genuinely surprise you. They will disgust you and delight you all at the same time. And that's because Abercrombie writes humans. These are human characters, and they will go to the depths of human disparity. They will show some of the worst characteristics of humans, like cruelty, like greed, indifference to slaughter, and absolute ruthlessness, cowardice, all of those. And in the same breath, minutes later, they will sacrifice themselves, they will love, they will laugh, they will show joy and beauty and progression and growth, and then they'll throw it all away again. And it's just so human that it was just interesting. I found myself transfixed with these characters because you just don't get that often. So it's just different, which I suppose is the theme of this video. It's enjoyable and it's genuine. And finally, the writing. The writing is absolutely beautiful. And what Abercrombie manages to do is he manages to have a lot of poetry almost in this book. So he has paragraphs and sections that will start with a catchphrase, explain this catchphrase perfectly through the view of this person and what they believe and the actions they're going to take. And then something will happen that will flip this catchphrase or this saying on its head. And then we will see why that catchphrase was completely wrong or a completely different way of seeing it and seeing the world. And then we will finish with that catchphrase again. And what we thought we knew is completely upside down. And I know that sounds vague, but when you read this series, you will understand what I'm talking about. And what Abercrombie really does is he writes beautifully and he addresses complex situations, complex dynamics between characters, but he does it in such a simplistic way. I was never confused in the book. I never really had to reread anything to try and understand, well, what happened here? What's the politics going on there? How is this relationship working? What are the ranks of this? It was complicated enough that it was interesting and intriguing, but he simplified it enough that I just had such a simple and easy time reading it, and that's added to the fun as well. And if you have read this, tell me which of those catchphrases were your favorite. For me personally, body found floating by the docks by Mr. Glokta. So you tell me, if you've read this series, please keep it spoiler free, but who are some of your favorite characters? What were your favorite catchphrases? Did you enjoy this series as much as me? And do you recommend reading the standalone books and the sequel trilogy? If you haven't read this series, when you do, let me know what you thought. Hopefully you agree with me and my ideas, but if not, I'd love to hear them. Please like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day.